When you think about great soundtracks in movies, most people would immediately think of examples such as Star Wars, Dark Knight Trilogy, Blade Runner, and many, many more. And what makes these soundtracks so great is how the composers masterfully craft them to help tell a story beyond what can be spoken or seen. Music as a medium has always been extremely important in helping humans understand emotions and beauty. I'll let the composers explain it themselves.
Music helps the sound of the game by scoring the emotion of the experience.
Slayer of my son!
Hopefully without doing it so overtly that people know what's happening. You want to give it a bit of a tilt in the direction. If it's dark, you want the music to kind of push it in that direction.
Destiny 2 is a game with a soundtrack that supersedes musical storytelling in video games to a degree that I can only describe as masterful. I'm going to provide an in-depth look in how music is used throughout raids in Destiny 2, and why Bungie is so ahead of the curve when it comes to video game soundtracks, creating some truly one-of-a-kind experiences. And whether or not players agree on the state of the game, I can confidently say that there's one thing that everyone can agree on, and that's the music slaps. If we didn't have legends like Michael Salvatori, one of the original composers for Halo, Michael Seacrest, Josh Moser, Sky Lewin, C. Paul Johnson, there would be no Destiny 2, in the same way there would be no Star Wars without John Williams. This video will contain spoilers, so if you have not completed any raids, I highly recommend you go and try to experience them firsthand before watching this video. Now, I know people will be wondering, what about the campaigns and strikes and all the other activities with great music? Well, if I were to do a deconstruction of the entirety of Destiny's music, this video would be 10 hours long. A single hour of it just dedicated to Sepix Perfected. So, I want to focus primarily on raids, and how the music has evolved to play such an integral part in creating an experience like no other. Raid music is Destiny at its peak. If you are not too familiar with raids in Destiny 2, they are activities where a team of 6 get together and take on a number of encounters requiring heavy amounts of teamwork and great execution. Raids contain some of the most difficult and unique mechanics in the game. Whenever a new raid is released, that raid is put on contest mode for the first 24 hours, making it one of, if not the hardest activity in the game to overcome. The raid encounters and the emotions experienced from them are often what makes these musical pieces so magnificent.
Yes! This game, bro! Woo! This game is too easy!
I'm recording that shit.
A leitmotif is an associated melodic phrase or figure that accompanies the reappearance of an idea, person, or situation. In this case, the leitmotif is the musical theme we hear all throughout Destiny, and there are quite a few, each one representing a different story and is uniquely tailored to that effect. Understanding the leitmotifs is extremely important in understanding the direction of the music, and I'm sure you will instantly recognize some of these themes if you have played the game for any period of time. So I'm going to play some of these main themes, since I will be referencing them all throughout the video. A major factor I've noticed about raid soundtracks is how effectively the music syncs with the gameplay. The progression and shifts in music throughout a raid whether it be in transition parts in between encounters or within the encounters themselves, play such an important role in telling the story and conveying emotions. So let's start by looking at and analyzing the Deep Stone Crypt. The story of the raid itself is fairly simple. The main villain Aramis has discovered the location of a place called the Deep Stone Crypt, which is the birthplace of Exos. Exos are humans whose consciousness has been transferred to an immortal robotic shell, pretty much creating an entirely new race. You and your fire team are sent there to stop the Fallen from getting their hands on this form of immortality. As you ride your Sparrow into the crypt, you are then greeted with Athanasia, one of the most beautiful songs in the game. It's ethereal and ambient, slowly gaining momentum as the intensity builds up the further you go into the crypt. It is an absolute treat of a song to experience each and every time I pull up. Now here's where the music starts to get interesting. Athanasia is also very unique in that it seamlessly transitions into the next song for the encounter. This encounter is called Security, and this is our first example of how the gameplay and music are choreographed. The musical progression heard throughout the encounter is directly correlated with the progression of the players. Here is a quick breakdown of how the music works in this encounter. There are three main phases of music: the intro, damage, then there's the interval, which transitions in as soon as the damage phase ends. So to see how it works, as soon as the encounter starts, you hear the short introductory theme, a more aggressive version of the ending of Athanasia, and you'll see how that transitions. Every encounter in a raid has this intro theme, and it lets the players know that the encounter has begun. There's usually only ambience after that, as the fire team begins the steps of progressing through the encounter. It is important not to be too over the top or distracting at the first part of the fight, especially on day one raid races. The silent period allows players to problem solve and communicate with their teammates. As stated in a study on effective music and media, background music should be audible enough to provide atmosphere, but not be so noticeable that it distracts from the more significant components of the message. Once the team has the main mechanics figured out, damage phase is next. Once the operator activates the final panel in his room, damage phase begins. The music immediately ramps up, acting as an audio cue. It's exciting and always gets my blood pumping when coordinating efforts to successfully damage the security system. If you progress and need a second phase of damage, the music continues, keeping that build up as you get close to the completion. As soon as the mechanics are all executed again, damage starts, and the music picks up as you make the final stretch to finish the encounter. This encounter is really cool because of how the music moves with the players, and can be somewhat dynamic depending on how quickly you take down the security. Up next is Atrax 1, Fallen Exo. For first timers and day one teams, you probably heard this theme more than any other. I spent around 5 hours on this encounter on my first run, and man did I enjoy every bit of it, thanks to the banger accompanying it, Replicate. It starts similarly to all the other raid encounters, has a powerful intro theme that gets players on their toes and ready to fight. This theme is a variation of the Guardians theme, and Athanasia, and is a lot more dramatic than Security, especially since now you're fighting an actual boss. You can hear the use of brass and climactic sounds to really sell you that this is where the fight begins. Now this encounter has 3 different phases of music, similar to how Security works. The intro starts as the encounter does. The second phase begins as Extinction Protocol begins, which starts when either all the servitors die or when the timer reaches 0. The third phase of music is the interval theme that plays in between damage phases. Once again, the music changes depending on the progression of the players, and like Security, if you manage to one-phase Atrax, the interval music won't start. It will instead immediately transition into Final Stand Extinction Protocol. Now there are many things about this track that make it exciting. First of all, this is one of the earliest cases of the Guardian's theme making an appearance, especially in an encounter that isn't a final boss. It takes the focus off the boss and onto you for a moment, kind of acting like your hype man. It's especially exhilarating if you're on the team getting launched into space. Hearing this music blasting for the first time as you fly from the planet to the space station is truly a phenomenal experience. Then, Extinction Protocol begins, and the music ramps up to 11, blasting the player with loud vocals added as damage begins. Now damage lasts only a few seconds, and a sense of urgency and grandiosity is communicated. When you hear this part of the song play, you know that damage has started. This encounter requires the most communication and teamwork out of all the encounters in this raid, and it makes scrambling around during Extinction Protocol so much more intense with the accompanying music. After one damage phase, the music slows down but never fully leaves. The interval period then begins, letting you know once again that you are progressing successfully. Tensions increase as your team works to get to the next phase of damage. For first timers, and especially day 1 runners, this encounter would take many rotations to beat and was a hell of an endurance fight. Music would beautifully transition with your team as you move in between Extinction Protocol and the intervals, until you finally reach that final bar of damage, and Final Stand begins. This is when it culminates with that epic blast of Extinction Protocol theme as your whole team shoots their way into space, grouping up at the space station to finish the fight. Now let's look at the first encounter of Vow of the Disciple, Acquisition, and how much the music varies because of how the encounter works. First of all, the theme of this raid is quite different, since it takes place within a darkness pyramid. Thus, the overall theme is based off the darkness motif. Now, similar to Security, the music here is mixed to flow and progress with the player, but the mechanics and actual progression are very different, and the music is used in tandem. For this encounter, there will always be 3 phases of activating symbols. Thus, the encounter has a predetermined length. Once one set of symbols is activated, the music progresses, building up to the final round theme, which implements darkness synths along with the Guardian's theme in a fast-paced tempo as you race to finish. A beautiful climax to a super fun encounter. The encounters within Root of Nightmares work similarly to what we have covered with Vow and Deepstone. Half the encounters require a set of tasks to complete before progression, and the music builds up after each phase. The one encounter that stands out is the third encounter, Macrocosm. Rather than having the music move and progress as the players accomplish the mechanics, the encounter's music progresses on a set time limit, used as an audio cue. The music uses sound cues that are distinct and easily recognizable to let the player know if they're making good time. The most notable sound that a lot of teams who did this day 1 might have PTSD from is this clanking. Once you hear this sound, it means damage is gonna start soon, and the music begins to pick up as the planets begin aligning. It's an almost tribal and intimidating theme that fits very well with this boss, creating a unique sense of anxiety. Now, where every other raid encounter in other raids has their own theme that is typically unique to that encounter, Garden of Salvation approaches it very differently. The track Temptation can be heard throughout the first 3 encounters of this raid, and is activated by continuous progression, much like Acquisition in Vow of the Disciple. The first encounter of Garden has a set number of tasks needed to accomplish before progressing, therefore the music is set to a predetermined rate of progression. It escalates as each team passes each other as they play the most complicated game of Leapfrog known to man. What makes this raid's music so unique is its techno-electronic-like sound. This perfectly represents the threat and mystique of the location, since we are once again in the Black Garden, the birthplace of the Vex. The interesting thing about this raid is that it has one main track used for all encounters besides the final boss, and is much more ambient and alien to anything we have heard. And the mixing of it in each encounter makes it so you hardly realize you're hearing the same theme in all 3 encounters, since the first 3 encounters work as one giant encounter, because all of those encounters integrate the Consecrated Mind, and what you're doing is working to destroy him. In Last Wish, the Queen's Walk encounter is another great example of how the music is mixed to flow with how the encounter progresses. The music is just a full third version of A Shell of What Was, which starts as soon as the heart is picked up, and ends once it's deposited. Very simple, yet very effective. And an absolute banger. This theme is played during Shirochi as well, which is another encounter that is a race-like encounter, requiring your team to constantly be moving. Now let's take a look at the music that plays in between encounters. Let's start off with probably the most iconic part of the Deepstone Crypt, the spacewalk. This parkour section follows the Atrax encounter. And for those who did this day 1, or with a blind group on your first ever run, this part most likely was a very special experience. As soon as the door opens to the station's exterior, you are hit with the Deep Stone Lullaby.
Artificial intelligence activated. Enjoying yourselves, intruders? It's worth knowing the cataclysmic damage.
A beautiful and somber piece of piano, accompanied by the voice of Clovis Bray, monologuing about how the crypt is humanity's fountain of youth. The monologue, plus the view of Europa, paired with the music, is an experience unlike any other you can experience in a video game. I will never forget my first time after 5 hours on Atrax. This was one of the most amazing experiences to follow such an encounter. The Deepstone Spacewalk is music and gameplay at its finest, creating a unanimous agreement within the Destiny community that everyone shuts up or mutes for the spacewalk whenever it's someone's first time.
Humanity and the universe would be utterly doomed. I have no reason to believe you are anything other than the wrong path. You now face God-like judgment. May it extend eternally.
Guardian down.
In the areas between encounters, you can hear Eden playing. Another peaceful, but also kind of creepy song. It still has that techno-electric sound to it, fitting the theme of the raid. One of the greatest moments in this raid is hearing the song play as you make your way up and see the giant waterfall for the first time, or look out upon the massive expanse of the garden. As chill as the music is, it just creates a bit of an uneasy feeling as you make your way through this mysterious world, and I absolutely love it. Diffracted Truth plays after Macrocosm, and is a very peaceful and mystic tune. It's a surprising change in tone after the stress-inducing music of the first 3 encounters. Nonetheless, it is soothing enough to always calm my nerves before the next fight. During the day 1 race, this song was amazing to hear after making it through Macrocosm.
Well, what's funny to me is how easy it is to do it that way, because why should you walk away from a theme or a melody or a feel or something that you know is already successful? It has what I like to call emotional equity.
That's a great term.
It's like, okay, I need another action piece. Well, I'm going to make an action piece based on some other piece that people already have emotional equity with, and that'll make it seem like it's all of a whole. And I play a lot of games, and this is one of the great things about Zelda and some of the other Nintendo games, is that they do bring back melodies that you are familiar with. Final Fantasy, all of those, those composers understand the power of melody and theme and feel and all these other things.
Now, as we move further into the Darkness and Light saga, the music of the raids start to tell a story of their own using these certain themes. And the Guardian and Darkness themes are extremely prevalent in the newest raids.
There's certain elements that we use, whether it's just like, we call it the migraine sound or something that's just kind of put people on edge. You don't want to ever be comfortable around the witness.
Let's begin with Vow of the Disciple. This is the first raid ever to take place within a Darkness pyramid. So our Guardian is depicted as a representative of the light, and our theme is upbeat and triumphant, used in moments of great overcoming. In Vow of the Disciple, you go head to head with a direct representative of the Darkness. This is why the Darkness motif is continuously used throughout the entire raid. What is interesting is how each encounter in this raid mixes the Darkness and Guardian theme, unlike what we've seen in previous raids. For example, during Acquisition, the music begins with that low Darkness theme playing. It gradually builds up as we progress, but what happens once we get to the final phase of the encounter is the Guardian theme begins playing. It's such a powerful piece to play as your team makes its final stretch to beat the encounter. And it's my favorite part of the song. The way the vocals hit, man, it's just peak. Caretaker continues this story, but with its own theme. See, the Caretaker's theme is a bit slower, more intelligent version of the Darkness theme that plays throughout the previous encounter. This remix directly affects the sound of the Guardians theme as well. You hear our theme for the first time during the second damage phase. It sounds very reminiscent of the Darkness theme, but it is in fact that iconic Guardian motif. It again tells us that the light and dark are directly battling each other. It's exciting and inspiring to hear as you damage the boss, and it makes these encounters really come to life. Exhibition's music once again follows this theme, except with a couple different leitmotifs added. This encounter is a relay race rather than a boss fight, so the music is tense and fast-paced. What's interesting is you don't hear the Darkness theme. Instead, you hear Savathun's song. Her motif is played all throughout, culminating with the Guardian's theme overtaking it in the final room. Now Rolk is the man we've been building up to confronting. His intro is clean as hell, coming out of his little cocoon with the exaggerated swagger of a disciple of the Witness. And for the first time, we hear the purest and most potent rendition of the Darkness theme. The encounter begins, hitting us hard with that overwhelming theme, as we are now face to face with a pure being of darkness. The music is clear, structured, and perfectly represents the nature of Rolk. Rolk is a very confident and composed individual, represented in the way he speaks to you and the way he moves and attacks.
No need to rush.
Each movement feels precise and calculated, and man, if the music just doesn't top him off, making him truly an intimidating figure. But as I have explained, the music tells even more of a story. As your team makes it to damage phase, you finally hear the Guardian's theme. Damage phase music is triumphant and powerful. But once damage ends, you are then flung all the way back to the start, and Rolk is again out of reach, and the Darkness theme begins to play again. The themes play in relation to who is in control of the situation at the moment. It really begins to tell that story of light versus dark. This becomes even more apparent as we continue to the next raid, Root of Nightmares. Root of Nightmares follows up Vow of the Disciple, once again taking place within a darkness pyramid as we hunt down another disciple of the Witness. His name is Nezarec, Final God of Pain, a name that goes harder than the actual boss fight itself at times. Nonetheless, the Darkness and Guardian theme can be heard mixed together within the encounters, similar to Vow of the Disciple, except now there's a new version of the Darkness theme apparent. It can be heard as soon as you enter the raid, and I think this is the best intro song of all the raids. This intro song is called Taking Root, and introduces us to Nezarec's theme and the overall theme of the raid. In the first encounter, the music really picks up once players start getting close to the end phases of the encounter. Since this encounter is like a race, the music moves fast, and you hear Nezarec's theme play in a synth-like mix really quickly. But then this leads to the music of the Darkness theme. Then the Guardian theme plays the further you get. Once again, it's that battle between light and dark we're hearing. The Guardian versus Nezarec. And this is only the beginning. The rest of the encounters follow a very similar composition. Scission is another high-speed encounter, and begins with Darkness references in Cabal Stomp, since the Cabal are serving Nezarec here. There are a lot of lore implications there, for Scions used to worship Nezarec a long time ago, and now the Shadow Legion follows him, so it's only fitting. As soon as the teams reach the 3rd floor, then the music starts picking up intensity as you hear some faint darkness in the background, leading into Nezarec's theme, and then the Guardian theme. It always plays last as we're leading up to the end, as we are finally taking control of the encounter and overcoming it. Disciple and Root of Nightmares, the final boss music is extraordinary, and the music team hit it dead on with these tracks. These final bosses have the kind of music that gets stuck in your head, especially if you spend a lot of time within these encounters on day ones. Each disciple has their own unique darkness theme, accompanied by the usual progression the encounter would have. What is awesome about these themes is how well they represent each character. Rolk is a much more composed and confident character. You see this in his demeanor. The way he walks, moves, and attacks. Each action is calculated and precise. His theme beautifully matches that, hitting you hard with the most potent use of the Darkness theme. Nezarec, on the other hand, is a total contrast to Rolk. This man is unhinged, and so is his theme. While Rolk speaks enigmatically and with purpose, and is condescending and insulting toward the Guardians,
let me know when you've had enough of banging your heads against walls, little ones.
Nezarec gasses you up the whole raid.
Light bearers have always seemed efficient at creating their own chaos. Your warlords did a masterful job of that. Tear that useless sack of meat apart from me, won't you? He hasn't accomplished nearly as much as you in your short time here.
This dude eggs you on right at the start. At times, I thought he wanted us to win. I found this contrast to Rolk super interesting, especially as his theme represents his more unhinged nature. His Darkness theme feels a lot more erratic, being mixed with his own corrupted version. His movement is super erratic and destructive and aggressive compared to Rolk. This dude starts off the encounter just straight up attacking you. Rolk just sits back and watches for half the fight. He doesn't even think you're worth his time, and it's awesome. All of these things mixed together just makes these raids such an amazing experience. Raid music is so essential in defining what you are going against, and plays a huge role in telling the story of what is happening throughout the encounters. All these factors working together help make raids some of the most unique and fun activities in any video game. Without the music, these raids just would be far less impactful. I, for one, look forward to the raid music more than any other music when a new expansion drops. And no matter Destiny's state, I will always look forward to the next banger the music team at Bungie cooks up.